opening it. Oh, no! I didn't really plan on eating another one of these. I'm like inhaling it. In the first episode of me, I'm gonna look nice, whatever. By the end of the year, I'm gonna be like 300 pounds, and people are gonna be like, I know her stuff is good. Look at all that weight she gained. And I'm like, yeah, you guys save the tops for last. I mean, I'll make things I don't like. Bless me in a curse, I guess.
Hi, and welcome to Div Bakes. Today we are making blueberry muffins, a simple, classic recipe that everyone can enjoy. For this recipe, you're going to need salt, vanilla, baking powder, butter, milk, eggs, flour, sugar, and of course, some blueberries. We're going to turn the oven to 375. Next, we're going to want to prepare our cupcake tin for our muffins. So a fun step you can do that's absolutely not necessary is to butter the inside of the muffin liners. The reason that you would do this is really to replicate the taste that you get when you don't have muffin liners. These are very big muffins, and so if you don't use a muffin liner, you're going to want to butter the top of your pan as well as the inside, because there will be some spillover and you don't want to have to scrape that out when you're done. And so I just have some softened butter here, and so I will just butter the inside of the muffin liner. Again, totally not necessary at all. It's really just a little extra goodness on the inside. So feel free to skip that step if you don't want to do that. Okay, cool. Once you're done with that, let's get started baking. Okay, so let's just get it out of the way. When I'm baking, I'm going to look at the recipe. I think it's great and wonderful if you have things memorized, but it's really just not worth the option of messing up. So I do have my recipe here on my phone. I will link all of the ingredients and the steps I'm following in the video description below. So the first thing we're going to do is cream our butter and sugar. So I have the butter here. It is a half cup of butter, or about 113 grams. I'm going to do a cup and a fourth of sugar, which is about 125 grams of sugar. But I'm no stranger to just using a measuring cup, so that's what I'm going to do. And then I will be using a hand mixer when I make my muffins. I've often made these in my stand mixer as well. If you do not have a mixer, you can absolutely use a whisk. But the step of creaming the butter and sugar is going to be the most difficult, just because you really want to get that to a good creamy consistency. And so you'll have to really put some effort in if you don't have a mixer. So it is recommended, don't have to have it. Alright, so we have our butter and sugar in here. Then we're going to get our hand mixer as I knock everything over. It's fine. It's the first video, right? Alright, we're going to go ahead and cream this. And if you do have a stand mixer, you can just let this go for like a minute or two. You know, just scrape the bottom of the bowl to make sure you got everything integrated. When I first started baking, this was the hardest step for me to understand, because I did just have a hand mixer, and I would think like, is this creamed or is this creamed? So I'm going to show you what it looks like for it to be fully creamed. I would say it's integrated at this point, but not creamed. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and kind of mush this together a little bit, really just so I can see where I'm at texture-wise, and then I'm going to whip it together again, and then just kind of helps me just to visualize how close we're getting, just because the beaters tend to break things up. So we still have a lot of clumps of butter there, and we want it to be fully integrated, so we're going to keep going. Just going to check it again. Let's see how integrated it is. So I would say that this is pretty well creamed. It could definitely be a little bit creamier, but since we are working with the hand mixer, I'm not going to be overly concerned about it. The biggest thing is just making sure everything is fully integrated, and I do not see any sort of pieces of butter or anything like that. Alright, so next we have 2 eggs here. We're going to add 1 egg at a time and beat it after each egg. once that egg is fully integrated, we'll go ahead and we'll add our second egg. And also, absolutely feel free to crack that into a different bowl and then put it into the mixer. Whatever you're comfortable with, that's totally fine. Okay, and now we're going to add our vanilla. Just 1 teaspoon. And you do want to add real vanilla here. You don't want to use like an imitation vanilla or artificial. You want to make sure it's the real vanilla because your baked goods will just taste that much better. And we're going to mix this in. Okay, and then just give it a good stir to make sure we've got everything combined. Nothing is stuck to the bottom. I do think that's one advantage of a hand mixer versus a stand mixer. It's much easier to like make sure that there's nothing stuck at the bottom. Whereas like when I use my stand mixer, I'm always, there's always stuff stuck at the bottom. So I do appreciate that about a hand mixer. Alright, so that's fully integrated. The batter's not like 100% smooth, it's a little gritty, but that's kind of just where we are in this step. Next, we're going to do our dry ingredients, alternatively with our milk. So we're going to use 2 cups of flour. 2 cups of flour is 240 grams. So our 2 cups of flour, we're going to put it in a different container. So we're putting it into this bowl here. I'm always a little light with my cups of flour just because I'm scooping it. And it's very easy to like get more flour, which is why it's actually better to do it by grams. And then we're going to do our 2 teaspoons of baking powder, which I have here. And then it is a ½ teaspoon of salt. Then we just want to make sure that these are mixed together well. You can definitely sift them together. My salt is actually a little bit too coarse and it won't go through my sifter. So I just don't need to do that. A ½ cup of milk. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of the flour, the dry mixture, and then we're going to add a little bit of milk, stirring it continuously until we've added both parts completely. And then we'll go ahead and add in our blueberries. We're going to start out by adding a little bit of the dry. It's already wet, so we don't need to add any more wet right now. So go ahead and mix this. I like to keep my mixer going at this point. It kind of helps me not to like over mix. You also don't need to put it on a high speed by any means. So I'm going to add a little bit of milk. I'm just going to keep integrating here. Add a little bit more flour. The batter's getting a little bit thicker. I'm just going to turn it up a little bit. Trying to work that flour in from the sides. Another advantage of a hand mixer. Add a little bit more milk. I wouldn't say there's a magic number to how many times you alternate. But I would say that it should probably be at least 3 times. Otherwise you're not really alternating, you're just putting in the dry and putting in the wet. And I've heard some people say it's better to like end on one or the other, the dry or the wet. I haven't noticed any difference, and to be honest, I don't know if I'm paying enough attention when I make things to see which one I put in last. That's fine. In this case, it's flour. another thing about just the mixer speeds. You don't want it to be too fast when you're adding dry ingredients because things will just fly all over the place. We don't want to mess up our recipe by dropping too many dry ingredients on the counter or anything like that. So make sure everything gets in the bowl and stays. Okay, so I'm going to scrape this down and then give it a last good whip. So as you see, this recipe is like really straightforward, pretty quick to put together. So, and they are quite honestly like the best blueberry muffins. So can't knock it there. Okay, so now that our mix is homogeneous, we are going to add some blueberries. So I've already washed and picked through and dried these. You just want to make sure that all the blueberries you're putting in here are good blueberries that you want to eat. And we are going to crush half of them and mix them into the batter. So there's a logical way to do this with a fork and a cup and things like that. Or you can just squish them. Get some therapy out real quick and just smush these together. And you want to do it over the bowl so that all of the juices and things get into the bowl. If you drop a couple without squishing it, it's totally fine because we're going to still put the other berries in here. Yeah, there's definitely, a nice clean way to do this, but I mean, baking is my therapy, so I'm going to take full advantage of it. Squishing these blueberries. They're very firm. Sometimes my blueberries are a little softer. These ones are pretty firm. So, and then just do another little handful. Ooh, lost one. Okay. I guess you do have to wash your hands after, so maybe, it's an extra step, but that's okay. We can wash our hands all day. So that's pretty good there. It's about a half a cup is what you want to squish. So we'll put those in there, and then I just want to squish this one. So I'm going to go wash my hands really quickly. Okay, so we want to mix these into the batter. So you can just use your mixer for that. And I do always spin it a little bit when it's out of the bowl and try to get all the mix off. And then a pro tip, you can add a little bit of flour to your whole berries. And then, I guess I'll just use my fingers. And this keeps them from sinking to the bottom of the cupcakes, muffins, whatever you want to call them. So it just creates like a little kind of air bubble around them that keeps them from sinking to the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and pour those in there. And we're just going to fold these blueberries. Alright, so I found the easiest way to put muffins, cupcakes, whatever, into the liner is just to use a scoop. This scoop did not tell me the ounces. I would guess just by looking at it that it's about 3, maybe 3.5. So I just get a healthy scoop of the muffin mix and release it into the liner. These are, again, are big muffins, so there's actually going to be a little bit left over even after we do this that I'll just kind of distribute into each of the liners. So don't worry about making sure all the scoops are the same. It's really just convenience of releasing the scoop into the liner. Also try to distribute the blueberries just because it's easy to get kind of like a whole scoop of blueberries, and then at the end you won't have as many blueberries left. So I just try to be conscious of that as I scoop each muffin. And then once we're done here, we're going to sprinkle some sugar on top. It gives them a beautiful crunchy top for each muffin. And they're gonna bake in the oven. Again, it's at 375 for about 20-25 minutes. My oven cooks pretty hot, so I keep a close eye on them after that 20-minute mark just to make sure that they are done but not overdone. And I think my oversized scoops actually worked out pretty well here because I don't have a lot of mix left. So that's good. I don't need to waste anything, so let's just see. Any of them look a little bit smaller. Or if there's one giant muffin, you know, that's okay too. I'm not going to complain. Alright, so there's that. We're just going to put a 1/4 teaspoon of sugar on top of each muffin. I have found this is the best way. Just measure it out, because if you just sprinkle it without measuring it, it's easy to put on less sugar. I don't think more sugar hurts, so if you want to put on more, go for it. But if you put on less, you won't get that crunchy top that you're looking for. So we want to make sure that we're putting on at least a 1/4 cup of sugar. Again, I keep calling these cupcakes instead of muffins because that's really what they are. It's really more of a cake batter that we're making here, and they're just filled with butter and sugar. But you don't have to tell your friends that. You can let them pretend that they're healthy little blueberry muffins. And then just a little side note, as a person that absolutely loves to bake, the easiest way to not gain weight from all of your baking and to be able to do it kind of as much as you want may seem obvious, but give it away. So I'm going to take these to my volleyball team tonight, and I often bake for my coworkers at work. Just if I'm in the mood to make something, I will bake it and bring it in for them after I eat whatever it is I wanted. So we're going to go ahead and put these in the oven now. We want to have a rack in the middle of the oven, which I totally forgot to set up. So put those in there. And I'm going to set our timer for 20 minutes. And check back in with you then. Alright, we're going to check on them at the 20-minute mark. They're definitely not done yet. I don't know if you can tell, but the tops are still very pale. And so we want to wait until they're nice and crispy. So I'm going to give those another 5 minutes. But I think I might check them a little bit sooner than that. And I will check in with you then. Okay, so our timer just went off. I'm going to go ahead and pull them out. They look pretty good at this point. Hot. And I'm going to show you kind of the color that you're looking for. I think it's coming across pretty well on the camera, but a little brown, not too brown. You definitely want to be able to see the kind of sugar tops on there, so those look really good. We're going to let them chill for just a second, and then we will move them over to the tray to finish cooling. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and move these to our tray now. They look amazing. And of course, we'll show you guys what they look like on the inside, because I am so excited to eat one. Also, like most baked goods, this is something that you can tell when it's ready or about ready, because it starts to smell delicious. So keep that in mind. If you have your timer set and you start to smell them, go ahead and go check on them. These do have a little bit of flexibility. I've overbaked them a little bit before and they're still delicious, so wouldn't be too stressed. But in any case, so we have our muffin. It's still very warm. I did not wait long enough to cool it. Gonna unwrap it. I think I'm actually gonna be kind of sacrilegious and eat it with a fork, just because it's really hot. But here's what it looks like unwrapped. You can see that there's kind of blueberries that are evenly distributed throughout, which is just a sign that everything was mixed well, so we definitely want that. And then they got their crunchy top there. Sorry, it's a little bit out of focus, but oh, here we go. I feel like a blueberry muffin is like one of those kind of like ultimate comfort treats because it just is so nostalgic. These blueberries are really good. It's definitely not blueberry season, but you know, I feel like blueberries, you can find good blueberries pretty much anywhere, and putting it in muffins just makes it even better. So I'm gonna try not to eat all of these. Then we're gonna finish that one. And I just want to say thanks for watching. Let me know if you make the blueberry muffins, what you think of them. You know, if you have any issues, ask some questions, whatever you need. I'm here to help out. And I just want everyone to enjoy these fantastic muffins. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Bye. Oh, mine, sweetie. It's like way too hot. I definitely should have waited longer, but. Oh! It's so good.